Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere a little grim. But don't worry, you're already doomed. You arrive at the edge of the Khmer Empire just as the skies have decided they've had enough of holding back. You're not exactly welcomed. There's no formal greeting party. No carved stone archway with your name inscribed in Sanskrit. Just a smear of wet jungle, a donkey cart with one wheel in crisis, and a drizzle that instantly ruins your confidence. Your bare feet sink into red clay the consistency of mashed bananas. Overhead, palm trees sway in a wind that smells like mildew and regret. You squint into the distance. There's Angkor, the jewel of Southeast Asia. 1,000 spires, 1,000 leeches, probably Dotso. Before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Comment below with your current location and what time you're listening. I'd love to know how far you're traveling tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step off the muddy road and immediately lose a sandal. That's fine. It wasn't doing much anyway. The path to Angkor Tom is slick with runoff. And every few steps you meet another puddle, deep enough to inspire religious reflection. You pass by a procession of ox carts weighed down with soaked bundles of rice straw and irritated children. One toddler throws a mango pit at you. Welcome. You're not a noble, not a priest. You're not even an artisan, which in this case would mean being allowed to carve demons into sandstone with a blunt chisel for 17 hours a day. No, you're something much more useful. Surplus labor. The Empire loves surplus labor. It cradles it like a wet kitten and sends it directly to work. They give you a place to sleep, sort of. It's a leaned behind a coconut vendor's hut, half shielded with palm fronds, and half exposed to the ancestral anger of the clouds. You lie down and immediately understand what it's like to rest inside a damp towel. Mosquitoes hold a council above your face. One makes direct eye contact. The Khmer Empire, at its peak in the 12th century, was an architectural marvel, an engineering masterpiece, a bureaucratic nightmare, and an absolute downer if you arrived without a roof. Historians still argue whether the sheer scale of Angkor's construction was sustainable or just a monument to imperial overreach. Either way, you've shown up late, wet and underqualified. Your first attempt to seek shelter under a banyan tree ends when an army of red ants decides you are, in fact, shelter. The ants are not symbolic. They're just hungry. Your next attempt, climbing onto a stone wall near a temple outflow canal, earns you a muddy slide directly into a shallow floodplain. You emerge covered in something you sincerely hope is only silk dot, and then the bell rings. Not a bell exactly, more of a gong, carved from bronze and hung between two carved nagas. The sound echoes across the jungle like a sleepy deity clearing its throat. It means one thing: assignments are being handed out. You limp toward the sound, dragging one foot and adjusting your tunic, which now clings to you like a remorseful jellyfish. The man at the head of the work crew doesn't look up as he hands you a small wooden paddle and points toward a massive staircase. Your task is drainage. Congratulations. Remember that sandal you lost. You'll miss it dearly when your bare feet hit the first step of Angkor Wat's staircase, slick with moss and the worn prints of 1,000 other poor souls who climbed this way, dreaming of reincarnation with better timing. By nightfall, you've cleared a section of the temple's drainage channel. The tools were your hands, your paddle, and the raw power of unearned optimism. Your reward is a cup of lukewarm rice porridge and a lecture from a monk about karma. It's hard to focus when your eyelids are weighed down with humidity and your entire body smells like frog habitat. You try to sleep, curled beneath the lean-to again. The roof leaks, the mat is damp, and now There's a subtle squelch beneath your right shoulder blade every time you breathe. You don't want to investigate. You don't want answers somewhere nearby. A priest chants softly, praising the rain. As a gift from the heavens, you, meanwhile, are contemplating whether the heavens might accept returns. Back in the present day, your phone would be waterlogged, your raincoat ineffective, and your weather app smugly predicting sunshine. But here, there's no such thing as dry, just varying degrees of aquatic discomfort. You drift off, not into sleep, but into that half-lucid state of historical immersion where everything is fun, slightly terrifying, and smells like pickled radish. The good news, the night will pass. Eventually, the bad news, so will the dry season. You wake up to a chicken sitting on your ankle. It stares at you the way minor gods do in cautionary tale sound, unimpressed. And vaguely threatening. You don't move, hardly out of respect, mostly because your back has fused with the mat and your legs feel like old banana trunks. The rain never stopped. It just changed tempo now, more of a persistent mist with occasional flourishes of thunder. Like a composer getting bored halfway through his monsoon symphony. Your tunic is still damp. Your sandals still missing, and the ants from yesterday's. All expeditions seem to have followed you, probably out of spite. You peel yourself off the mat and attempt something that resembles standing. Gravity resists, but you win. Barely outside. The path through the village has transformed into a series of brownish canals. Children swim through them with enviable grace, shrieking and splashing as though this were a planned holiday. You, on the other hand, slog forward with all the enthusiasm of a sandbag. The Empire waits for no one, especially not you. Today's assignment is field work. Rice season has begun, which is convenient, because rice is also lunch, dinner, and sometimes breakfast when there's any left. You join a group of workers already knee-deep in a paddy the size of a soccer field. The water is opaque. You can't see what's under the surface, and you've decided you won't try. That squirm near your ankle, probably just a fish, or a spirit. Either way, not your business. You begin planting seedlings. One, then another, bend, step, wiggle, rise, repeat. It's meditative in the same way painting a fence with your eyelashes might be. Your lower back complains within 5 minutes. Your thighs join in. You begin to suspect that reincarnation exists, and in your last life you offended a particularly vengeful crocodile. The woman next to you doesn't speak, but occasionally she looks over to confirm that yes, you're doing it wrong. Her own motions are swift, practiced, almost beautiful except for the part where she flicks mud directly onto your arm. Accident. Maybe. You're too tired to care. Rice cultivation in the Khmer Empire was the foundation of life and power. The system of reservoirs and canals called braes was so complex that historians still argue whether they were purely agricultural or held religious significance. Either way, they are currently full of silt, frogs, and your self-respect. The monsoon is not your friend. The rain might be warm, but it's relentless. It soaks through every layer of clothing and seeps into your bones. You try to stretch out your shoulders and accidentally fling mud into your own ear. Remember that damp tunic. It now weighs as much as a small dog and smells like something that once lived. Lunch is served under a crooked awning. It's rice, obviously, with a side of fermented fish paste. The paste is a local delicacy known as prahok. It smells like regret, but it's packed with protein. You chew slowly, trying not to breathe through your nose, and remind yourself that your ancestors probably ate worse. They probably didn't. A child runs past and drops something into your lap. It's a frog. You don't ask why. After lunch, you're assigned to mosquito duty. This isn't a formal job, but it's what happens. When you stand still too long near the latrines, you flap your arms. They laugh at you. The mosquitoes, not the workers. Though them too, probably. The Empire had no concept of malaria the way we understand it today, but the fever demons were well known. You hear an elder mutter a prayer to ward off sky spirits as she ties a cloth round her head. You do the same, mostly because your scalp is starting to itch. One quirky belief common during the wet season is that loud noises scare off evil water spirits, so someone bangs a drum every few hours. Echoing through the rice fields like a soggy battle cry. Whether it works or not is irrelevant. It drowns out the sound of your own complaining thoughts. Meanwhile, your phone, if you had one, would be useless. No reception, no rice paddy Wi-Fi, just you, the rain. And a growing suspicion that this empire was not designed with guest passes in mind. By late afternoon, the water level in the paddy has risen a few inches. The sky darkens, not from sunset, but from a thick blanket of storm clouds. You trudge to the edge, your legs heavy, your stomach uneasy, your arms dangling like forgotten laundry. A sudden crack of thunder startles a herd of nearby buffalo. One charges briefly in your direction before being redirected by a boy with a stick and a chant. You thank him with a weak nod. He spits into the mud and walks away. You don't blame him. Evening chores begin. You're handed a basket of partially rotted palm fruit to separate. The smell is memorable. You try to breathe through your mouth and immediately regret it. As night falls, the rain sharpens. It sounds different now, more vertical, more personal, like it's chosen you specifically. You hurry back to your lean-to, where your mat is now partially submerged and a gecko sits smugly in your usual corner. You lie down, turn over, and realize that whatever bit you earlier is still inside your sleeve. You don't investigate. Again, not your business. The Empire thrived on water, but it also fought it constantly. Canals had to be maintained, dikes reinforced, farmers and laborers conscripted seasonally. Some historians still debate whether these hydraulic systems were more about state control than actual necessity. You'd weigh in. But you're busy drying your armpits with a strip of papyrus. The wind howls briefly and you hear the creaking of nearby bamboo. It could be a tree, or something trying to get inside. You roll over and pull your tunic tighter. You wonder if tomorrow will be drier. It won't. You wake up to the sound of dripping, not rhythmic, gentle dripping, but the impatient, rapid-fire kind. Like someone tapping a spoon against a clay bowl repeatedly. It takes you a moment to realize it's coming from above your head, where a new hole has opened in the thatched roof overnight. It's directly over your face. The Khmer gods have a sense of humor. You roll to the side and land in a puddle that wasn't there yesterday. Or maybe it was, and now it just has aspiration. Your tunic is soaked again. Because of course it is. At this point, it's more sponge than garment. The gecko from last night is gone. But in its place is something with antennae and legs that seem far too organized to be friendly. You try to stand, and your joints creak like the doors of a poorly funded museum. You're sore, itchy, and at least 80% mildew. Still, duty calls. A young man with impressive shoulder muscles and no discernible enthusiasm appears and shoves her. Bamboo stick into your hands. Temple drains. He mumbles, then walks away. That's the briefing. No further questions. Temple drainage is the glamorous side of Empire maintenance, specifically. You're headed to Bafyuan Temple, a gorgeous, crumbling sandstone giant that rises above the tree line like a stone illusion. It's surrounded by intricately carved Angkor balustrades, dozens of lion statues, and, during the rainy season, about 3,000 gallons of water looking for somewhere to go. Your job: persuade that water to leave politely. You join a crew of 5 men and 2 women, none of whom look thrilled to be here. One hands you a shallow wooden scoop. Another points to a tunnel beneath a cracked balustrade. Start there, she says. Try not to get bitten. You don't ask by what. The tunnel smells like ancient regrets and wet leaves. It's narrow, low, and so dark you have to feel your way forward with your stick. The water comes up to your shins, then your knees. Then, after a particularly dramatic slip, your chest. You learn quickly not to breathe through your nose. The Khmer built their temples not just as places of worship, but as microcosms of the universe order. Imposed on chaos, you, soaked and stuck in a drain with what might be a catfish brushing your leg, begin to question the balance of that universe. Historians still argue whether these hydraulic systems were sacred, practical, or both. You're voting for spiteful. An older man behind you grunts and begins scooping sludge into a reed basket. You imitate him, half-heartedly at first. Then, with increasing desperation when you realize the water isn't going down, it's rising. After an hour, you emerge from the tunnel covered in something that smells like old incense and fish sauce. The rain has picked up again, and the slope of the temple has turned into a water slide for frogs. You're instructed to start clearing the upper channel's delicate stone gutters carved along the temple. As many terraces, these were designed to divert rain efficiently. They no longer do that. One fun quirk of Angkor's architectural genius: the temples were aligned with astronomical precision, but didn't always account for thousands of gallons of stormwater slimming it. Owe them during peak monsoon. That's your job now to make up for divine oversight. You wedge yourself into a narrow passage and begin clearing debris. Bits of palm leaves, mud, a coin, someone's hairpin, and a very irate frog. The frog escapes, the hairpin you keep. Maybe it'll be currency later. A monk in saffron robes walks past you calmly. Seemingly untouched by the rain, he blesses the workers with a murmured chant. You feel nothing, except wetter. You slip twice while descending the temple stairs. The second time, you land in the lap of a lion statue, which somehow feels judgmental. You whisper an apology to the stone. Lunch is eaten under a stone portico where birds have taken shelter. It's more rice, with roasted water spinach and something that might be eel. You eat all of it. Hunger blurs boundaries. After lunch, the supervisor appears and assigns you to guard a detail. Again, you're starting to think he has it out for you. Maybe you insulted his buffalo in a past life. Up you go again, this time to Priya Palale. A quieter temple set beneath a canopy of towering diptero-carp trees. The air here is different, cooler, more ancient, also filled with midges that swarm your ears with missionary fervor. You spend hours bent over intricately carved runoff channels, scraping out sediment while the rain drums on your back like a persistent toddler. The sound becomes hypnotic. Your mind drifts. You remember the warmth of the dry season, or think you do. At this point, memory and fantasy are merging. You remember sunlight the way a prisoner remembers cheesecake. Meanwhile, your phone, if it were here, would be dead. And not just low battery dead. Drowned in a floodplain. Reincarnated as a paperweight. Dead. You try to imagine checking social media here. The closest thing is a woman nearby who occasionally mutters sharp critiques of your technique. Toward evening, a small landslide takes out part of the drainage ditch you just cleared. The entire crew sighs in unison. You begin again. By nightfall, you've cleared a few dozen meters of clogged stonework. Your hands are raw. Your calves are shaking. Your patience is on its third life. You return to your lean-to to find it slightly improved. Someone has left you a gourd. It's filled with rainwater, which is still better than the communal well after storm runoff. You drink it anyway. It tastes Like leaf, possibly 2 leaves. You lie down, and something rustles beside you. You don't look. If it's a snake, you will meet it tomorrow. Remember the ants. They're back. This time they've brought cousins. Sleep comes in brief. Shallow dips, interrupted by thunder, foot cramps, and a rooster who clearly doesn't understand dawn. Still, the drains are slightly clearer. The temple hasn't collapsed, and you, somehow, are still breathing. You wake up to your ear in a puddle and your leg at a weird angle. Like a forgotten puppet discarded mid-play. You are not entirely sure what time it is. There's no sun, just a flat grey haze above the pond canopy. The rooster crowed 3 times during the night for reasons known only to itself. Your mat has developed a smell. It's not a bad smell exactly, just one that feels personal. The rain is lighter this morning, more of a weepy drizzle than a tantrum. You step outside and the earth swallows your heel. Your feet have become amphibious. Somewhere in the distance, a water buffalo groans, probably reflecting on life choices. You can relate today. You're told, is a rest day. This turned out to be a lie. It's merely a different kind of labor. The Empire does not believe in sitting still, and certainly not during monsoon season when everything is either breaking, leaking, or sprouting a fungus. You're assigned to hut maintenance specifically, patching the roof of your temporary lodging with fresh palm thatch. The catch is, there's no fresh palm thatch. There is, however, an old thatch pile behind the rice storehouse crawling with beetles the size of your thumb and home to a family of very territorial frogs. You dig through it, find the driest pieces you can, and climb onto your creaking shelter. Climb is generous. It's more of a damp slither. You tie the thatch with strips of bark, one of which snaps and flings itself dramatically into a drainage ditch, halfway through. A gust of wind reminds you that Khmer rooftops are less still and more philosophically opposed. To dryness, you continue anyway. A monk passing by offers a blessing, which mostly involves splashing you with scented water and walking off before you can thank him. Once patched. You sit under the roof to admire your work. It still leaks, but now the drips have character. Next task, laundry. There are no soap bars, no spinning drums, no cheerful beeps, just you, a woven basket, and a bucket of brownish water sourced from the runoff canal. You slap your tunic against a flat stone, pretending it's effective. It isn't. The mud spreads artistically. The Empire didn't have hygiene the way modern people imagine it. Cleanliness was a mix of religious ritual, community standards, and what the rain hadn't ruined yet. People bathed in ponds, canals, or simply stood out in the rain. Today, you do both. You spot a cluster of young women washing their hair using a blend of rice water and crushed herbs. It smells wonderful. You try to mimic the process. The result is that your scalp now smells like wet lemongrass and sadness. You rinse off, hoping no one's upstream adding surprises. A floating mango peel brushes your shoulder. You pretend it's a blessing, while changing behind a palm frond screen. You discover that your spare tunic has sprouted something. Not mold, not yet, but something ambitious. You wear it anyway. You're past the point of fashion. Round midday, you're invited to help gather edible greens. This sounds wholesome until you realize it means walking through ankle-deep water, avoiding snakes, and trying to distinguish between leafy vegetable and lethal hallucination. A local woman hands you a bundle and warns, don't eat the ones that bite back. You don't ask for a clarification. Lunch is a soupy porridge, this time flavored with wild herbs and something crunchy. You eat slowly, one eye on the fish. Pond nearby, the crunchy might be frog. You decide it's better not to know. The child runs past and hands you a handful of lotus seeds. You chew them gratefully. until you realize one still had part of the stem attached. Fiber, that's what that is. After the meal, the elders of the hamlet perform a short ceremony to bless the changing winds. They light incense, hum soft prayers, and gently scold the clouds for being over-enthusiastic. It's oddly moving. You feel comforted, and then it rains harder. Historians still argue whether Khmer rain ceremonies were performative, spiritual, or simply community bonding rituals. From your perspective, they're mostly wet theater, but the incense smells amazing, and for a moment, you don't feel completely cursed. The afternoon is spent weaving reed mat art that sounds relaxing, until you realize how sharp reeds are. Your fingertips become abstract art. Still, there's a rhythm to it. Over under, twist, press, swear softly. Repeat. You begin to appreciate how everything here is recycled, reused, repurposed. Nothing is thrown away. Broken pottery becomes drainage. Filler. Worn cloth becomes insulation. Even old baskets become scaffolding for new ones. It's ingenious and exhausting. Meanwhile, in your modern life, your biggest worry might be a dishwasher breaking or forgetting a Wi-Fi password. Here, you would sell your soul for a clean rag and 10 dry minutes. As evening settles, the wind carries the smell of boiling taro and crushed ginger. You follow it, hoping it's dinner. It is, and it's hot. You nearly cry. You eat cross-legged with a dozen others beneath a sagging canopy. No one talks much. Everyone listens to the rain. It becomes a kind of shared heartbeat. You're too tired to feel miserable. That, in itself, feels like peace. You return to your hut. The patched roof holds mostly. You lie down on your reed mat, now slightly drier than the ground. The frogs begin their nightly chorus. A nearby goat sneezes with alarming force. Remember the bamboo stick from temple drain duty. It's now your pillow. It smells better than the mat. You fall asleep thinking about dry socks. You've never wanted anything so much. You wake up because something is chewing. Not loudly, but deliberately. Like a goat meditating on its breakfast. You sit up, stiff as a board, and scan the semi-darkness. Nothing. Then a snort. You peer over the woven wool and find a pig staring at you. Have its face inside your laundry basket. It looks unapologetic. The rain has paused. Not stopped, just taking a smoke break. The air is thick and glistening, like the jungle is exhaling after a long complaint. You take the moment to wring out your tunic, which releases enough water to irrigate a modest herb garden. Today, you're back in the rice fields, not planting this time, but helping divert water from the overflow channels to make sure nothing floods the temple road. Sounds noble, almost relaxing. It is not. The canals, designed centuries ago with mathematical precision, were a marvel. Vast reservoirs and causeways that once turned this empire into a hydraulic utopia. Historians still argue whether this water management was sustainable long-term or just a temporary triumph of muscle over mud. You, standing thigh deep in a channel clogged with lily roots and squirming eels. Suspect it leaned heavily toward trial and error. The work involves pushing water from one flooded section to another using a series of small sluice gates and strategically placed rocks. This would be fine. Except the gates are slippery, the rocks are sharp, and the water is filled with silt, debris, and possibly a disappointed spirit or two. You manage to slip only once. You land in the muck, face first, and come up with a snail stuck to your eyebrow. Nobody helps. One guy laughs so hard he drops his stick into the canal. A farmer nearby gives you a thumbs up, either as encouragement or sarcasm. It's unclear. As you dig out one of the smaller feeder ditches, you find something unexpected, a carved sandstone piece shaped like a lotus, half buried in the mud. A remnant from a collapsed shrine. Maybe. You place it on the bank, wondering if it's lucky or cursed. Possibly both. Lunch is different today. Sticky rice, slices of dried fish, and an egg that's either fermented or just had a long day. You eat it all. It crunches in places it shouldn't, but it's warm. Midday brings a burst of sun blazing, radiant and short-lived. The puddles on the road shimmer like broken mirrors. Steam rises from the earth, and for 20 golden minutes, you almost feel dry. Almost. That's when the frogs come. Dozens, then hundreds, leaping from the reeds, from beneath baskets, from the actual walls. It's breeding season. You stand perfectly still as one uses your foot as a launchpad. Meanwhile, your modern brain recalls air-conditioned cafes and iced coffee. But here, the closest thing to a lottie is sweet rice in a banana leaf and the scent of palm sugar drifting from someone's cookpot nearby. It's not worse, just different. The afternoon work involves bundling harvested rice into small heaps and moving them to higher ground. The heaps are heavier than they look, and they stick to your shoulders like clingy toddlers. A boy shows you how to carry them using a woven head strap. You try. It pulls your neck in directions nature never intended. The fields are alive with dragonflies. They swarm above your head like tiny helicopter scouts, skimming the surface of the water with expert precision. One lands on your wrist and stares. You stare back. It leaves first. Later. While stacking bundles near a stone embankment, you're nearly run over by a cart being pulled by a very large, very unmotivated cow. The driver mutters something that might be sorry, or possibly move. Either way, you leap aside into another puddle. You miss dry ground. Remember dry ground. The stuff that doesn't squish when you walk. The kind where you can lie down and not be worried about leeches or centipedes setting up shop in your armpit. Yeah, that as evening nears, the wind returns, cool and wet. You carry the last bundle to the edge of the paddy and sit on a half-submerged stone. Your hands are blistered, your calves ache, but the sky looks almost peaceful. A strip of orange slides along the horizon, just above the palm trees. It lasts only a moment. Dinner is boiled taro, stewed greens, and a dollop of fermented crab. Paste. You eat slowly, silently, surrounded by others who are equally exhausted but not quite broken. The village elder offers a brief blessing before sleep. He speaks of the rice, the water, and the frogs in a way that makes you suspect he sees no distinction between them. You nod solemnly. It feels like the right thing to do. You return to your shelter. The patched roof drips again, but only in one spot. You place your rice bowl beneath it and tell yourself it's intentional. Lying down, you close your eyes and listen to the frogs, not chirping, chanting. It sounds like a warning and a lullaby all at once. Your dreams that night are of dry socks again, but this time they're filled with rice. You wake up to a scratching noise near your toes. In your half-asleep state, you wonder if it's another gecko, or perhaps the pig from earlier attempting round 2. It's neither. It's your own foot twitching in protest after yesterday's labor. Your muscles have become their own tiny creatures. Now, each with a personality and a personal vendetta. Outside, the world is once again wet, which by now feels less like a surprise and more like a return to the natural order of things. A man walks past your lean-to with a live chicken under one arm and a woven basket of herbs on his head. The chicken looks resigned. So do you. Today's task is hygiene. Or what counts as hygiene in the Khmer Empire during the rainy season? You're told to accompany a group down to the bathing area near the edge of the village, where the runoff from a nearby shrine has created a relatively clean pool. Relatively. The water is a brownish green and smells vaguely herbal, like oversteeped. lemongrass tea and uncertainty. Still, it's the best bath you've had in a week. You scrub with a chunk of rough bark that functions as soap, paired with crushed betel leaves and a paste made from powdered rice husks. It stings, in a good way, or maybe just a decisive way. There are no towels, only the sun and time. You dry off by standing very still and hoping. This mostly works, until a monkey drops a seed pod on your head. You look up. It stares down. You've lost the exchange. Bathing is communal, and the older women nearby spend most of the time discussing your posture, your technique, and possibly your chances of survival. One offers you a scrap of luffa. You accept it like it's an heirloom. Personal hygiene in the Khmer Empire was tied deeply to ritual. Cleansing wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. Certain days were considered unlucky for washing, while others were auspicious. Historians still debate whether these patterns were linked to astrological systems or just excuses to avoid cold water. Today, apparently, is an acceptable day to wash. Which is good, because the canal you accidentally fell into last week gave you a rash that's now shaped like the Angkor Wat floor plan. Your next task is helping clean the communal latrine pit. This is not symbolic cleansing. It is the opposite of symbolic, armed with a long-handled scoop and a square of cloth tied over your face. You descend into the low trench behind the village. It's transformative. You work beside a boy who whistles constantly and a woman who hums softly while scooping. You begin to hum too. There's something surreal about forming a choir over a pit of human consequence. Khmer sanitation, surprisingly advanced for the time, included structured waste disposal, often rooted away from living quarters and temples. But during rainy season, all bets were off. Ditches overflowed, trenches refilled. Nature ignored blueprints. Midway through, the trench wall gives a gentle sigh and slumps inward. You jump back, narrowly avoiding a landslide of your own making. The others laugh. You bow dramatically. Humor is survival. After the latrine detail, you return to your shelter to wash your hands with ash paste and rainwater. Your skin is raw, your nostrils offended, but you feel strangely accomplished. You have stared into the abyss. It stared back and sneezed. Lunch is served near the elder's hut. Sticky rice, sour mango, and a cold fish soup you pretend is refreshing. You eat with your hands, carefully avoiding the soup's mysterious floating segment. The afternoon is given over to herbal tasks. You help grind tamarind pods and mix them with honey and lime for a natural sore throat remedy. The woman leading the group explains which herbs cure fever, which invite dreams, and which should never be eaten unless you wish to see your ancestors early. You nod slowly and try not to mix anything up. The pounding of mortar and pestle is oddly soothing, like a heartbeat made of spice and stone. Meanwhile, back in your real life, your self-care routine might involve scented soap, warm towels, and vitamin gummies here. The most luxurious item in your orbit is a dry rag and a bowl of salted lime. And honestly, you're grateful for both. As the sun dips low, you're given a final task, sprinkling aromatic herbs round the shrine to cleanse the air. It's mostly symbolic, you think, but the act of it, circling the stone platform, flicking, water scented with pandan and jasmine, feels gentle, maybe even holy. You pause a moment, looking at the shrine's carvings, devotees with impossible poise, smiling enigmatically. You wonder what they'd think of your soggy socks. Night falls in a heavy exhale. You eat roasted roots by firelight and listen to stories told in rhythmic, murmuring cadence. You don't understand all the words, but the tone is universal. Weariness, humor, memory. Someone passes you a bowl of hot rice sweetened with coconut. You nod in thanks. Back in your hut, You lie on your mat cleaner than before, if not entirely clean. Your tunic smells faintly of lime and smoke. The ants have returned, but in smaller numbers. Maybe they respect hygiene. You close your eyes, replaying the day, the scratch of loafer, the slap of paste, the laughter by the latrine, the scent of pandan at twilight. Somehow, the mud feels a little less hostile now. Or maybe you've just learned to breathe through your mouth. You wake before dawn, not from sound, but from the quiet and eerie. Unexpected stillness. No rain, no rustling leaves, just the soft creak of bamboo in the cooling night air and a rooster, who for once seems to be sleeping in. You lie there a moment, amazed. The absence of rain feels like a visitor who arrived without knocking. You sit up slowly, letting your joints negotiate their terms. Your shoulders ache from the latrine duty, and your hands smell faintly of ash and lime. But the air feels lighter. Or maybe that's your imagination. You stretch your legs and glance. Outside, a pale mist clings to the edges of the village. Curled between the thatched roofs and the low-slung trees, someone stokes a fire. Smoke drifts upward, unraveling into the sky like thread. Today is a temple day. You're told to prepare early, not for manual labor, for once, but for ritual observance. You don't know whether to feel relieved or nervous. Either way, you're handed a ceremonial wrapped bright cloth stiff with moist strand pointed toward a washing station. You bathe in cold water that's somehow colder than the air. Surrounded by murmuring villagers doing the same, everyone moves, slowly, reverently. Children are quieter, elders more serious. It's not morning, but something close. The air is thick with incense and anticipation. Today is meant to honor the spirits, those of the ancestors, the rain, the land, and the thousand small forces believed to govern everything from crop success to weather your roof. Stays on the Khmer world, it turns out, is crowded with invisible companions. You walk barefoot to the main temple. It's not Angkor Wat, this is a smaller shrine, nestled between two great Bodhi trees with twisted roots that seem to drink from the earth like lazy servants. Offerings are already piled at the base. Rice, lotus buds, bits of fruit, small tokens. Made of woven leaves, the temple steps are slick, worn down by centuries of devotion. You climb them with care, watching as others place incense and bow deeply. You mimic the motions, not entirely sure what you're praying for. Dry socks, maybe. A warm rock, the absence of centipedes. A priest arrives, robed in white with a golden sash, face half obscured by smoke. He chants in slow, rising tones that echo against the stones. His voice blends with the low hum of the gathering. You feel your breathing slow. They hand you a small candle made of beeswax and instruct you to light it and place it in the offering tray. You do, and for a moment, the tiny flame holds steady. Then, of course, a breeze snuffs it out. You try not to take it personally. The ceremony continues. The priest walks among the gathered, sprinkling scented water from a carved wooden bowl. Each drop lands on your shoulders like a question. The water smells of basil and smoke. This moment of spiritual cleansing is one part of Khmer daily life that remains laid in mystery. Historians still argue whether these temple rituals were standardized or evolved organically from local animist practices blended with Hinduism and Buddhism. To you, standing there with damp feet and an open heart, it feels ancient and somehow necessary. After the blessing, you help reset the temple grounds. There's no off switch here. Ritual is always followed by work. You sweep fallen petals, gather empty bowls, and help ready fraying fabric round a shrine post. One boy insists that unless the cloth not faces east, the spirits won't recognize the offering. You adjust it 3 times, just in case. Round midday, food is brought out. Not just survival rations, but true celebration fare. Sticky rice steamed in bamboo tubes. Coconut sweets wrapped in banana leaves, roasted yams, and pickled green mango. It's the most flavor you've had in a week, and you nearly cry into your rice. Someone laughs at your enthusiasm. You offer them a piece. They take it. It's the closest you've come to conversation in days. After the meal, the temple quiets. People drift away. A few remain to tend candles or meditate under the trees. You sit nearby, watching a line of ants carry away a fallen grain of rice. Suddenly, a monk appears beside you and offers a palm-sized scroll. It's not for reading, at least not now. It's meant to be placed under your mat, for protection against what you are not told. You thank him anyway. You return to the village as the afternoon clouds return. Of course, the rain is only ever hiding. Later, as the wind begins to rise again, you're assigned a light task gathering small river stones to line the footpaths. It's oddly satisfying, fitting them together like a muddy puzzle. Your fingers find rhythm. Your mind empties. You forget the weight of your tunic. Meanwhile, in your normal life, you'd be scrolling through half-hearted affirmations on your phone. Here, your affirmation is a dry stone path that doesn't collapse under your weight. Somehow, it's enough. At sunset, the clouds part briefly. The sun hangs low and red, casting long shadows across the village. You sit on the temple steps, watching the smoke rise from cooking fires. The smell of lemongrass and ginger floats by. Remember that hairpin you found in the temple drain. You've tied it to a string and hung it above your mat. A charm, maybe. Or just something beautiful to catch the candlelight. You fall asleep dry, for the first time in days. Not warm, exactly, but dry. That's something worth worshipping. You wake up slowly this time. Not because your rest don't flatter yourself, but because your body has officially entered the stage of rebellion, known as chronic damp fatigue. Your joints creak, your shoulders groan, your ankles feel like they've been politely disassembled and reassembled by someone using vague instructions. It's still dark, but you can feel the rain even before you hear it. It's that strange humidity that creeps across your skin like a whisper the roof is holding. Belly. You sit up, stretch, and immediately regret it. You notice something odd. Your left sock, the slightly less soggy one, seems heavier than it should be. You shake it, out drops a leech the size of a small carrot. You both scream. No one else wakes up. Apparently, leech-induced horror is now background noise. You take the sock outside, dunk it in a bucket, and try not to think about what else is probably living in your belongings. Leeches, it turns out, are not just jungle myths. They're a very real, very enthusiastic part of Khmer rainy season life, especially near the canals and Paddy's every place you've been regularly working. You're assigned to water patrol today, which is like neighborhood watch, except for controlling minor floods and inspecting canal banks for structural weaknesses. Naturally, this means trudging barefoot through areas known for their leech populations. You attempt to armor up long sleeves, tightly wrapped fabric round your legs, and what can only be described as spiritual resolve. It doesn't work within 10 minutes. Something squishy slithers under your wrap and attaches with the quiet confidence of a creature that knows you can't do anything about it until it's finished. The boy walking ahead of you tells you leeches are lucky. You ask why. He shrugs and says, they don't die when it rains. Double quotes touche. You reach the edge of a barrier, massive man-made reservoir whose service belies the chaos underneath. During the dry season, this is a serene reflection pool. During the rains, it's a rising monster. Today, It's creeping outward, claiming the footpath inch by inch. Your job. Dig small trenches to redirect the water. Simple in theory. In practice, you spend an hour moving mud from one place to another, while being slowly consumed by nature. You find 3 more leeches. You name them. You let one go with a warning. Khmer hydraulic engineering was genius on paper. Historians still argue whether the over-reliance on canal-based agriculture led to the empires. Slow decline. In the meantime, you're arguing with a frog over who gets to stand on a moderately dry rock. The frog wins. At midday, you break for lunch more sticky rice, with pickled radish and grilled banana flour. It tastes sharp, like something that might also be used to clean wounds. You chew it with dignity. A woman nearby casually flicks a leech from her calf and keeps eating. You try to match her energy, but flinch anyway. The afternoon brings a change of pace-herbal preparation. You're sent with a group to collect betel leaves, wild ginger, and a fragrant root the size of your forearm that smells like licorice and wood smoke. In the forest, everything glistens, leaves are slick, tree trunks drip, even the ants shimmer with dew. The path is slippery and coiled with vines that seem designed to trip you. You fall once, maybe twice. Nobody comments. You pass a shrine built around the base of a strangler fig. It's covered in old offerings, coins, buttons, bits of ribbon, and what appears to be someone's tooth. You bow. Just in case, back in the village, you help grind the herbs into pastes and oils used for everything from muscle aches to bug repellent. Your hands are stained green and smell like the back aisle of a spice market. You learn something. Leeches hate turmeric. You begin applying it liberally, everywhere, whether invited or not. You smell like a curry in distress. It's worth it. As the sun begins to set, the clouds break open again. Not a downpour, just a slow, deliberate curtain of rain that soaks without urgency. You stand under a palm roof and watch the pots dissolve into streams once more. A small child runs past you, barefoot, laughing, a toad in each hand. You wonder how anyone could be so unfazed by all this wetness. But then you catch your reflection in a puddle mud street. Mosquito-bitten and vaguely golden from all the turmeric and realize you don't hate it as much today. Back in your normal life, a surprise rainstorm would ruin your day. Here, it just is. Not good, not bad, just constant. Dinner is sweet rice and boiled grains. The leeches are not invited. Back at your shelter, you tie your socks to the roof beam to dry up high, out of reach of creatures that don't understand personal boundaries. You wrap your ankles with turmeric paste, lay down, and pull the scroll charm a little closer to your head. You drift off to the sound of rain tapping on palm thatch and frogs crooning in the gutter. You dream of walking barefoot through a city without puddles, and you wake up missing the squish. You wake up to shouting. Not angry shouting, just the kind that says, something unpleasant is about to happen, and we'd like you to participate. You stumble out from under your roof, just in time to be handed a wooden spade. There's no explanation. There rarely is anymore. You've learned to interpret gestures, sighs, and the general mood of the morning mist. Today, you're on public duty, specifically pickler tree maintenance again. But this time, it's construction, which somehow feels worse. You're led to the edge of the village, where a rectangular hole has been outlined with string and sticks. The ground here is thick with clay and previous attempts. Rain has turned the site into something between a swamp and a failed excavation. Your job: dig, but smartly, not deeply. The hole can't be too steep or it will collapse. It also can't be too shallow or well. Let's not finish that sentence. You plant your spade and begin the slow rhythm of misery. Scoop, heave, Squelch. Repeat. The mud sticks to everything. Your legs. Your elbows. Your teeth. Somehow. You're not asking questions. The ground yields grudgingly, revealing layers of soggy soil, old roots, and the occasional insect nest. At one point, you uncover something that looks suspiciously like bone. No one reacts. Someone shrugs. You bury it again. Sanitation in the Khmer Empire was more sophisticated than you'd think. The use of shared latrine pits, with runoff channels, and careful placement near vegetation, suggests an awareness of hygiene principles long before germ theory existed. Historians still argue whether these systems were a result of environmental necessity or communal. Ritual purity. You, covered in a thin film of latrine mud, lean toward necessity. The man beside you mutters about evil spirits dwelling near unblessed pits. He ties a small charm to the handle of his shovel and tells you not to look directly into the hole. You nod solemnly, then immediately look. You regret it. By midday, the pit is deep enough, wide enough, and emotionally scarring enough. You rest beneath a palm awning while someone brings a bundle of sweet leaves to layer inside the whole natural odor control. You think briefly of air fresheners and scented candles. You would trade a finger for either. Lunch arrives. More fermented fish paste, boiled rice, and a pickled vegetable that looks like it might try to fight back. You eat it anyway. Hunger has no pride. After lunch, it's time to build the surrounding. Structure a three-walled shelter of woven bamboo, reeds, and desperation. It's meant to provide privacy, though not security. You can still hear everything. As you lash reeds together with strips of bark, a small lizard climbs your arm. You both freeze. It blinks once, then continues upward like your shoulder is just part of the landscape. You let it. Respect. Later. A woman shows you how to decorate the outside of the shelter with hanging leaves, not for beauty, but as a signal that the pit is newly blessed and functional. Apparently, a shelter without leaves is considered spiritually incomplete. You try not to take that personally. The sky darkens again. Rain doesn't fall, it seeps, as if the clouds are just exhaling regret. You cover the roof with thatch and step back to admire your work. The shelter leans slightly, like it's reconsidering its career choices. You understand. Meanwhile, in your irregular life, your worst toilet experience was probably a broken seat at a gas station. Here, your seat is a log, a slippery one. Your aim must be good, or else you spend the rest of the afternoon digging a runoff trench around the pit. To prevent overflow during heavy rain, the trench fills immediately. You dig it again. It fills again. You accept this as a metaphor. As the day ends, the elders come to inspect the structure. One walks round it 3 times, mumbles something in Pali, and throws a handful of rice into the pit. You are not sure if it's an offering or bait. Then, just like that, you're done. No ceremony, no plaque, just a nod and a slice of boiled cassava as a reward. You eat it standing in the rain. It's dry. That's all you care about. Back at your shelter, you rinse off the worst of the mud with a half bucket of canal water. You change into your slightly less wet tunic and lie down on your reed mat, which smells faintly of smoke and insect repellent. Remember that scroll charm under your mat. You shift it slightly closer to your heart, just in case the pit spirits got curious. The frogs start their chorus. One of them sounds like it has opinions. You listen anyway. You fall asleep thinking about plumbing. Not just modern plumbing, hot water, flush handles, tile floors. You think about bathtubs, about faucets, about the way clean water comes out when you ask it to, and not just when the sky decides you deserve it. You've never loved a sink before. Tonight, you marry one. You wake up damp, not soaking, Not drenched, just consistently moist, like a vegetable forgotten at the back of a fridge. Your mat has absorbed enough rainwater over the last 10 days to qualify as a rice paddy. You shift your weight, it squishes. Of course it does dot outside. The world is not exactly raining, but it's also not raining. There's a fine mist drifting sideways, like the atmosphere is sighing on everything. You stretch slowly, joints clicking like poorly made bamboo instruments, and step out into the muck. Today's task is different. You've been assigned to the communal kitchen. You're not entirely sure if it's an honor or punishment, but at least it's out of the mud. For now, the kitchen is more concept than structure, an open-air setup under a large awning, with clay ovens, blackened pots, and a stack of firewood trying very hard not to mold. You are handed a basket of unidentifiable roots and pointed toward a stump with a cleaver embedded in it. The instructions of egg, chop and don't bleed. You learn quickly that food preparation in the Khmer Empire is a combination of instinct, repetition, and low-level burns. The fires are kept going with coconut husks and dried palm fronds, and the smoke hugs the ground like a sullen cat. You start peeling a pile of taro roots with a knife so blunt it feels like a challenge. You lose a thumbnail. It's fine. The smoke stings your eyes. That's fine too. You haven't felt truly clean since day 2. Someone hands you a clay bowl and shows you how to grind fermented fish paste with herbs. The smell is, in a word, persistent. You stir it into a pot of boiling greens and pray to every known deity that it masks whatever that floating chunk is. Food in the Khmer Empire wasn't just nourishment, it was cultural glue. Communal cooking bound people together. Flavor mattered, less than availability. And variety came from texture. Soft taro, crispy water spinach, chewy river snails. You're learning, slowly. Lunch prep is chaos in soft focus. Children darting between legs, smoke drifting through sunbeams, someone arguing with a chicken. You keep string. A woman tastes your soup and nods solemnly. You take it as a promotion. After lunch is served, you're asked to help with fermentation duties. That's right, fermentation. You're introduced to a series of clay jars filled with various levels of pickled things, fish, mango, eggs, and what might be bamboo shoots. Though no one confirms this, you're told to burp the jars, which means carefully lifting the lids and releasing the gas. The smell is not something you forget. It clings, not to clothes, but to identity. You are now part pickled fish, forever. You help pack fresh fish into one of the jars with crushed salt and herbs. You're told it'll be ready in 2 weeks. You try not to imagine where you'll be in 2 weeks. Still wet, probably later in the afternoon. Rain resumes. Not aggressively, just that steady sheet of drizzle that makes every surface feel like the inside of someone's mouth. You're assigned to dinner fire duty, which means crouching beside a sputtering pile of semi-dry kindling. Cooks sing it into flame using a hollow bamboo tube and your last ounce of patience. You manage it. Somehow, the fire catches, the rice boils, and for one brief, crackling moment, you feel competent. Dinner is served at twilight: grilled snake headfish, wild greens, sticky rice, and soup that may or may not include yesterday's taro experiment. You eat gratefully, savoring the warmth more than the flavor. Across the fire, a boy is playing a stringed instrument, a 2-stringed true. The sound is soft, melodic, a little sad. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. Meanwhile, in your modern kitchen, you'd be microwaving something while scrolling through recipes you'll never try. Here, your meal was earned with smoke, sweat, and a slightly bruised thumb. It tastes better, somehow. After dinner, you help clean the pots. There's no soap, just ash and elbow grease. You scrub the blackened metal with handfuls of sand and rinse with warm rainwater. You don't even question it now. It's just how things are as night falls. The smoke rises in slow spirals above the village. The frogs begin their songs. The crickets chime in. You return to your shelter. Reeking of charcoal and fish and accomplishment, you lie down. Your scroll charm is still tucked under your mat. The palm thatch roof holds barely. The stars are invisible. But somehow, you feel okay. Remember that floating chunk from the soup? Still unidentified, but you survived it. Like everything else, you drift off wondering what you give for a microwave burrito, and then fall asleep before you can answer. You wake up to something enormous sneezing. It's not a person. It's not a buffalo. It's an elephant. You open your eyes and confirm. Yes, there's a full-sized elephant casually standing 10 feet from your shelter, flapping its ears and kicking up mud like it owns the place, which, technically, it probably does. Today, you've been volunteered without your input for elephant wrangling, not riding. Not admiring from a respectful distance, actual wrangling. You, the person who tripped over a sleeping pig yesterday. Excellent. The mahout, or elephant handler, is a weary man with one eye and an unsettling laugh. He hands you a palm rope and points toward a younger elephant tethered to a tree. Walk. He says. You wonder briefly if that's a mistranslation. It is not. The elephant blinks slowly at you. You blink back. You are not sure who's more confused. Walking an elephant, you quickly learn, is a misnomer. The elephant walks. You get dragged along behind it like an unfortunate coconut. The mud doesn't help. Neither does your lack of traction or the sudden realization that elephants do not stop for puddles, they simply continue. And if you're in the way, that's your fault. You manage to steer your new companion down the path toward the fields, where several other elephants are helping clear debris from a collapsed canal wall. The rain has softened the soil too much, and the bricks gave way under pressure. Your job is to help guide the elephant while it carries bundles of bamboo and loads of stone in a hanging sling. You say guide generously mostly. You follow and occasionally shout things like wait and please. To no effect, elephants were essential to construction and agriculture in the Khmer Empire, especially during the rainy season, when their sheer strength and stability on muddy terrain made them indispensable. Historians still argue whether they were treated more like tools or sacred animals. You decide it's both. The mahout calls to the elephant with a series of grunts and whistles, and miraculously, it listens. You try mimicking him. The elephant sneezes again. You take that as progress. By midday, your legs are shaking from keeping up. You've slipped into 3 ditches, lost a sandal again, and been thwacked by the elephant's tail more times than you can count. Still, the wall is slowly rising. Lunch is eaten beside a stone basin where the elephants drink. You're given sticky rice, dried fish, and grilled banana. The elephant steals your banana. You let it. You are not trying to start anything. After lunch, you're sent with a second crew to guide a pair of elephants through a flooded path leading to a shrine. The path is too deep for carts, so the elephants are used to transport baskets of offerings and supplies. It's not glamorous. The rain returns, of course. You trudge behind a giant beast carrying a load of coconut oil and prayer candles, slipping every 4th step. The elephant seems amused. As you walk, the wind kicks up, rustling the trees. A bolt of lightning snaps nearby, followed by thunder that shakes the air. The elephants freeze. You freeze. One lets out a low, guttural rumble that vibrates through your ribs. The mahouts calm them with words and gentle touches. You do neither. You simply stand very still and promise to never complain about your old office job again. The shrine is finally reached, an ancient, vine-wrapped room and half submerged in water. The elephants are unburdened. The offerings placed. You help light incense while the rain hisses round the flames on the way back. Your elephant steps carefully over a fallen log, and you realize you're walking in sync. A small victory. You pat its flank. It ignores you, still. Progress. Meanwhile, in your regular life, the most you've ever directed was probably a GPS. Now you're communicating with a 6-ton creature using nothing but breath, tone, and neutral. Exhaustion. As the sky darkens again, you return to the village soaked, sore, and slightly crushed, but also exhilarated. There's something deeply grounding about walking beside something so ancient and strong and mildly indifferent to your existence. Dinner tastes better than usual: sweet rice, spicy greens, and a small portion of grilled eel. You eat in silence, trying not to smell like elephant. Later, you sit beneath the palm awning, your legs stretched, your fingers pruned from wet rope and effort. A child hands you a carved wooden elephant trough. But charming, you thank him with a half-smile. Back in your hut, you hang the charm beside the scroll. It clinks in the breeze, soft and warm. Remember that hairband. It's still tied to your roof beam, now resting beside a strip of rope you cut from the sling. Souvenirs of survival. You drift off, bones aching but steady, to the sound of distant elephant trumpets and rain beginning again. Like a curtain slowly closing on the longest act of your life, you wake up. Confused, the world is bright, too bright. There's light pouring through the thatch above your head, the kind of diffuse, golden glow that only comes when the clouds have cleared for once and the rain takes a break. You blink, unsure if it's real or just your brain simulating sunlight. Out of desperation. It's real. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, hard to tell anymore. There's a breeze that doesn't taste like mold. You stretch slowly, cautious not to provoke any muscle that might still be harboring a grudge. Outside your shelter, the air's different. Not dry, of course not, but lighter. And the humidity has dropped just enough to make you suspicious. But any suspicion vanishes the moment a boy runs past you yelling "Shrok Druok." In panic. Crocodile. You don't move at first. You think maybe it's a joke. Then a second kid runs by, no less urgent. Then an adult, holding a stick and shouting back toward the flooded canal. You're up in seconds. No warm-up stretches. Today, just instinct. You follow the flow of chaos toward the edge of the canal that feeds from the nearest body. It's swollen, muddy, and speckled with debris. There, half submerged in the reeds, is something long, ridged, and very much alive. It doesn't move fast, but it does move. The villagers spring into action. This isn't a first. Crocodiles are not common guests, but they're known visitors, especially when monsoon flooding pushes them out of their normal haunts. The elders believe they're attracted to human activity. Some think they carry ancestral spirits. Historians still argue whether such beliefs were symbolic, protective mythology, or coded warnings passed down through generations. You, watching a crocodile tail flick near a sack of rice, vote for genuine concern. You're handed a long pole, not a spear, not even a particularly sharp stick, just a pole. You hold it like a broom, unsure if you're expected to push the crocodile or reason with it. It disappears underwater. Nobody breathes. Then it resurfaces farther down, closer to the shrine pool. The elders begin chanting. One of the temple boys throws roasted coconut into the water, muttering a prayer to calm the spirit. You copy the hand gesture, just in case. Eventually, with shouting, prodding, and enough noise to offend the heavens, the crocodile retreats into deeper water, uninterested in the confrontation. There is cautious celebration. The boy who spotted it first gets a mango. You get a pat on the back and a reminder to stop standing near water. The rest of the day feels like borrowed time. After a visit from a spirit creature, everything quiets. The village lowers its volume. You're reassigned to shrine cleaning, a kind of symbolic rebalancing. The temple is soaked but intact. You begin sweeping leaves and run off from the entry steps. As you work, you notice no offerings. Bananas, rice, a little carved wooden figure that looks suspiciously like your elephant from 2 days ago. You wonder if someone else had the same dream. Later, while hauling buckets of water to rinse the stone floors, you slip and fall not hard, but spectacularly. Your bucket flips, the water arcs, and you land, of course, in a puddle that smells like incense and pond scum. Everyone laughs, including you. It's the first time you've really laughed since arriving. Lunch is quiet. Taro, water spinach, and rice formed into small cakes wrapped in leaves. You eat by the shrine, your legs crossed, the sun gently warming your back for the first time since you arrived. In the afternoon, the wind shifts. The sky darkens again. A storm brews not one of rain, but thunder. Great rolls echo over the horizon. The elders gather quickly. Someone points to the sky and mutters about angry ancestors. You're told to help prepare the temple for high winds. This involves tying down the corner flags, reinforcing roof beams with ropes, and helping the younger monks collect sacred scrolls into baskets. You carry them carefully, like they're sleeping birds. As you work, the wind builds, not chaotic, but insistent. It presses against the palms. It leans into your back. The air hums. At sunset, the storm breaks, but not with water, with sound. Thunder crashes. Lightning fractures the sky. The rain that follows isn't heavy, but sideways, biting at angles you didn't know rain could reach. You huddle under the temple stone portico with a group of others. The air smells of wet stone, smoke and fear. Someone starts a soft chant. You join in without knowing the words. It feels ancient. Not just the moment, but you, a creature of soaked mats, smoky hair, and mosquito-bitten ankles, are part of this place now. Not fully, but enough. Meanwhile, back in your world, storms power outages and grumbling. Here, they mean surrender. You can't fight the sky. You can only wait for it to stop shouting. After the storm passes, you emerge to find the village mostly intact. A few huts are damaged. One boat has floated into someone's cooking shelter. Everyone gets to work. No orders, just motion. You help untangle a fishing net from a tree. You carry water jars. You hold down the edge of someone's roof as it's resecured. It's not heroic, but it's real. Night comes gently, exhausted but whole. You eat plain rice with pickled root and drink warm tamarind water. You sit beside the boy who gave you the elephant carving. He shows you how to fold banana leaves into birds. Yours looks like a lopsided moth. He approves. Back in your shelter, the roof creaks. The mat is damp. Your bones ache, but your hands are steady. Remember the crocodile. You still don't know if it was real or spirit. Doesn't matter. You met it, and you're still here. You fall asleep to distant thunder, belly full, head quiet. You dream of storms you survive without knowing. How? You wake up to a distant drumbeat. Not the tribal drums of yesterday's rain ceremony, but something more deliberate, rhythmic, stately, like the heartbeat of the empire itself preparing for a grand event. You climb out of your sundered mat, your limbs stiff but determined. Today, you're part of a royal procession. Congratulations, your luggage. The rain hasn't stopped. It's merely a courteous mist now, fitting for royalty. You slip on your one remaining sandal and wrap your tunic tighter. Your hair, an odd testament to survival. Gets pinned back with that hairpin from Baffion. It looks like a war medal, the strap from her. Elephant sling makes a fine waistband. You're the best dressed commoner around. You gather with the other conscripts near the palace gate. A row of foot soldiers stand to attention, their spears dripping water onto polished shields. You stand beside them, holding a woven basket of flowers meant as offerings to the entourage. The smell of damp jasmine mingles with leather and wet stone. The procession begins. First, a contingent of temple dancers in bright silk sashes, their wooden anklets clacking softly. Their feet move in patterns older than the city walls. You remember that you once tried dancing in your living room and failed spectacularly. Here, they do it flawlessly under rain-necks. A line of priests carrying lotus-shaped lanterns. They hold them high, the lanterns dripping wax as if reluctant to sacrifice clarity. One flickers ominously, then steadies. You catch the eye of a priest. He nods. Neither of you acknowledges that the lanterns are surprisingly flimsy. Behind them trudge war elephants, their mare houts perched high, their trunks poking at the air like curious thumbs. Your elephant friend from Section 11 gives a soft trumpet in greeting. You wave. It ignores you. Elephants have priorities. Then, at the center of it all, comes the royal palanquin. It's an ornate sedan chair made of gold-painted wood and silk. Curtains mounted onto long poles carried by 8 strong men. Curtains flutter in the mist, hiding whoever sits within. You're tasked with scattering petals before a job title. Royal Confetti Specialist dotters there. Palanquin moves by, you toss petals. The men carry it steadily, though their sandals slip occasionally, sending them into a near stumble that has the dancers gasping. You catch a glimpse of polished wood and maybe a gilded sandal. It's not the throne, but it's close. The purpose of this procession is twofold: to honor the rain spirits and to demonstrate the king's power over both water and people. Historians still argue whether these events were genuine religious offerings or elaborate displays of state authority. You suspect both, and a dash of public relations. The route winds through flooded streets, past murals of apsaras carved into temple walls, and alongside canals swollen with monsoon runoff. You step carefully to avoid hidden holes. One misstep lands you up to your knee in water. A fish swims by, looking smug. You resurface, spraying muddy droplets onto a spectator monk. He chuckles softly. Blessings come in many forms. You remember your first day when a monk lectured you on karma over lukewarm porridge. Now you're basically part of the show. You feel oddly proud. You're the only confetti specialist in the Empire. Congratulations again. Along the path, musicians play gongs and xylophones carved from bamboo. The sound is hollow and watery, echoing along the street like a watery lullaby. You tap your foot in time, though your sandal waddles. You avoid looking at your now hairpin-shaped Medal of Honor. At one stop, the procession pauses before a shrine dedicated to the rain god. The palanquin carriers set it down carefully. Priests chant, echoing through the mist. You kneel and offer your flower basket, half of which is soggy by now. It doesn't matter. Ritual is ritual. One fringe belief holds that each petal thrown during the procession carries its own prayer to the sky. You nod, imagining a cloud receiving thousands of individual requests for dry socks and functional roofs. Historians still debate whether these beliefs were original or rebranded animist ideas scrubbed clean for a court approval. You vote REBRANDED as you stand. A sudden splash. Someone has knocked over a jar of water used for blessings. The liquid arcs over your leg. You shrug. Royal mud bath. Right. Might as well. The procession resumes. You march alongside. But your focus drifts to the modern world for a moment. If this were your commute, you'd complain about traffic, overpriced coffee, and fluorescent lights. Here, your commute is soggy, muddy, and led by war elephants. Somehow, it feels more authentic. The parade routes into a courtyard overlooked by the palace balcony. Courtiers stand in silk robes, their feet shielded by raised platforms. They watch impassively. Like movie critics at a wet premiere, you throw the last petal. Then you drop the basket and bow. Next duty. Help carry away empty offering plates. You gather banana leaf bowls, ceramic dishes, and sticky residue that might be coconut pudding or something else. You clean them at a nearby basin using sand and ash, humming a tune you picked up from the canal cleaners. It's a dirty Angkor. As afternoon wanes, the sun peaks between clouds. A rainbow forms over the courtyard, faint, shimmering, like a watercolored promise. The crowd gasps. You gasp. You nearly drop a dish. Royal processions are dramatic. You get it now. The kings of Angkor relied on such displays to remind everyone who controlled the water and, by extension, the people. The hydraulic empire needed both spectacle and obedience to maintain its canals. Temples and rice fields, historians still argue whether spectacle or infrastructure was the true secret to power. You suspect a bit of both. With the show over, you're dismissed. No parade. No fanfare, just a scattering of applause and the slap of wet sandals on stone. You slump against a column. Breathing deeply, the mist clears further. You feel a rare sensation, almost dry. Dinner is delivered to the courtyard edge. Fish steamed in bamboo leaf, sweet rice cakes, and a spicy broth that pops on your tongue like celebratory fireworks. You taste everything with gratitude, even the rice cakes evoke Section 5's midday meal wetter by comparison. But sweeter now, the palace musicians pack up. The dancers slip out of their silks. The elephants return to their pens, trunks reaching for bananas. You watch them go and pat your pocket, feeling the weight of the carved wooden elephant charm. Finally, you make your way back to camp. The route is the same as mornings, but in reverse mud canals, temples, and the scene of your canal fish-faced incident. You step carefully, mostly avoiding holes. Your lean-to welcomes you with open legs. You lie down, pulling the silk sash from her, royal wrap over you like a prize blanket. It's still damp, but it's improved your posture. Remember that procession. You'll dream of rhythm, of elephants, of silk and sputtering lanterns. You'll wake up with tiny bits of flower petals stuck to your tunic. You drift off to sleep. Royal confetti specialist no more, but carrying memories soaked in ceremony and rain. You wake up in the dark, not just early morning dark, but heavy, smothering dark, the kind where even the stars have retreated behind the clouds. The air is still, like the jungle is holding its breath. That's your first warning. Your second comes as a gust of wind pushes through the palms with her. Sound like tearing silk. Your roof creaks ominously. You sit up. So does the gecko on your wall, as if bracing itself. And then the storm begins. It doesn't start with rain. It starts with sound thunder that doesn't crack but rolls low, like distant drums from something older than the empire. Then the wind arrives, not in a breeze but in a wall. The entire shelter groans. The reed mat shifts under your weight, and your scroll charm flutters like it's trying to escape. You grab your tunic and scramble outside, barefoot, slipping in the muck. Everyone else is awake, two figures moving like shadows, running toward the temple for shelter. You follow them, rain now lashing down in sheets so thick you can't tell which direction it's coming from. The ground is already flooding. The pathways you've walked every day are now canals. Your feet vanish beneath water that churns with twigs, leaves, and something that may or may not be a sandal from last week. You reach the temple just as a gust rips part of the roof of your neighbor's shelter. Palm fronds fly like angry birds across the compound. You duck and throw yourself against the temple stone wall. It's solid, safe, cold. Inside, monks light lanterns, shielding them with their sleeves. One chants, another tries to close. The wooden shutters that guard the relic chamber, they rattle like bones. You're directed to help reinforce the temple's front gate, a task that involves stacking sandbags and praying no one slips on the soaked stone steps. Your tunic clings to you like a Despotex. You push the sandbags into place anyway, even as your fingers wrinkle from the rain. The monsoon has peaked. This is no regular downpour, this is the storm elders whisper about. The one that washes away rice fields, uproots trees, and tests the patience of spirits and scaffolding alike. You glance up. The carved apsaras on the temple walls seem to dance, more violently in the torchlight, their eternal stone smiles flickering with shadow. You wonder if they're enjoying the chaos. The temple begins to leak in slow trails. Water pools between the stones, and moss, long dormant, perks up like it's been personally invited. You're handed a basket to catch water near the altar. You miss and soak your feet instead. The monk nods like this is acceptable. Meanwhile, back in the modern world, a power outage would send you scrambling for your phone flashlight and a tweet. Here, the power outage is the power default. The only light is fire. The only backup plan is move faster. Someone hands you a bundle of dry clothes, not clean, just drier than yours. You thank them with your whole soul. The cloth smells like storage and kindness. You wrap it around your shoulders like a royal cloak. By dawn, the worst has passed. The rain softens, the wind calms, the temple still stands. So does the statue of Vishnu near the east gate, its mossy smile undisturbed. You feel something. Between awe and relief. You help clean, not out of obligation, but instinct now. Buckets are passed, floors are swept, roof tiles are recovered from the grass. Someone's mat has vanished. You donate yours. You aren't attached. Breakfast is shared, quietly. Warm rice, a sliver of dry jackfruit, and coconut water collected from a broken stem. It tastes like survival. After the meal, a slow walk round the compound reveals damage. A cooking shelter collapsed. A boat flipped. One of the shrine banners twisted into a banyan branch 10 feet high. The elders murmur in circles, making plans. You're part of the circle now. A woman ties red thread around your wrist. Not decorative, protective. Against what? You don't ask. She nods once and disappears into the mist. You help carry salvaged palm fronds back toward the village edge. The path is ankle deep, but at least it's not waist deep. Your balance has improved. You only slip twice. While rebuilding one of the cook areas, someone asks your name. The first time, really. You answer. They repeat it, then nod and point toward a stack of bamboo. You've earned responsibilities now, or chores. Same thing here. By afternoon, there's sun again. Weak, filtered through layers of mist and steam, but real. You help spread mats to dry. You watch as a group of women wring out bundles of cloth and lay them over fence posts like flags of surrender. Remember when rain was your enemy. Now it's just part of the schedule. You no longer fear getting wet. You fear having nothing to do while being wet. Later, a group of temple boys fly a paper kite held together with reed strips and leftover silk. It rises clumsily, then sharply, tugged by the wind that remains. You watch it climb into the gray, the flicker of defiance. Dinner is bitter greens and soft rice wrapped in banana leaf. The bitterness makes you alert. The rice makes you still. You return to your shelter. It's still standing. You don't ask how. The roof leaks in a different place now. You adjust your mat to accommodate it, because that's who you are now. adaptive, damp, accepting. The storm is gone, but your bones carry its rhythm. You lie on your side. Body humming with exhaustion and satisfaction, you drift off wondering, if the gods wanted to destroy everything, why did they leave the temple intact? Maybe because people were already rebuilding before the sky cleared. Maybe that's the point. You wake up sore. Not the Sleptron sore or the Randash to dash much sore. No. This is the sore of every mosquito bite, bamboo bruise and emotional. Tangle in your shoulders finally filing their formal complaints. But still you wake up, and for once, the world outside isn't plotting something. It's warm. Still humid, sure, but there's no mist, no thunder in the distance, no frogs bellowing like offended baritones, just the quiet rustle of palm leaves, the low hiss of wet earth drying under hesitant sunlight, and the steady breath of a village crawling back to its feet. You sit up slowly. Your mat is damp in only one corner now. Progress. The storm from yesterday left scars, broken awnings, fallen fronds. An entire fishing net stuck 20 feet up in a tree which no one has explained yet. But it also brought something strange, a kind of calm. The chaos has burned itself out. The people are tired, yes, but moving. You're sent out to help finish what the storm started. Rebuilding. First up, collecting bamboo poles. They're essential for everything. Roofs, scaffolds, fences. Splints. You head into the edges of the jungle with a small group, machetes in hand, feet squishing into earth that still holds yesterday's anger. Cutting bamboo is an art form. You can't just hack. You have to listen literally. There's a hollow knock that tells you a stalk is ready. The older man leading your group shows you how. Tap, tap, then swing. The machete jars your arm, but the stalk falls cleanly. It's satisfying. You do it again and again. By midday, your hands are blistered, but the pile is growing. Back in the village, you help haul the poles through narrow, muddy lanes. Kids cheer as you pass, chanting nonsense songs and splashing water at your feet. You splash back. You're one of them now, or close enough. You're a next task. Roof work. Again. Because everything in the Khmer Empire either leaks, floods, or both. You tied down new thatch, woven fresh from the palms you helped collect 2 weeks ago. You'd forgotten the smell of fresh cut, fronds grassy, a little sour, but oddly clean. While binding the corners, you catch a view of the village from above, steam rising from cook fires, elders seated beneath eaves weaving baskets. A group of children trying to herd a chicken that absolutely doesn't want to be herded. You smile, just briefly, but enough. Lunch is grilled fish, crisped over a fire you helped rebuild with half-dried bamboo and patience. It flakes apart in your fingers, eaten with a bowl of sticky rice pinched from a shared bowl. The salt on your lips reminds you you're still alive. In the afternoon, you assist with something unexpected, rebuilding the village shrine. Not the grand temple, but the small, weathered altar near the edge of the field. The one people pass with a nod, a bow, or a whispered prayer. The statue of the rain spirit cracked in the storm. The pieces lie in a woven basket like bones. Your job is to help restore the foundation. You haul new stones from a nearby stream, rinse them, and place them one by one, fitting them together like a memory being repaired. No one speaks, but the silence is reverent, not strained. A child helps you sprinkle lotus petals over the stones. You nod thanks. They nod back, as if to say, "You've come far, stranger." As the sun sinks, the sky opens not with rain, but with color, gold, lavender, a burst of tangerine where the sun bleeds through the clouds. People pause to look. You pause too, and for The first time since you arrived, you don't calculate how far you're from home. Because home is not just comfort, it's familiarity. And now, this place is familiar. The mud, the bite marks, the endless rain, all of it. Dinner is quiet, eaten slowly. Sweet yam, sticky rice, and a honeyed paste of tamarind and sesame. A final blessing is offered for surviving the season. You don't understand every word, but the rhythm feels true. Back in your shelter. The scroll under your mat has cold at the edges. The elephant charm swings from the roof beam. The reed mat is patched, and you're soaked in memories that will not dry easily. Remember the canal, the temple drains, the frog that claimed your sandal. They're part of you now. You lie down slowly, the world hums round you, a different hum now. Quieter, more forgiving. You close your eyes. You don't brace for rain this time. You don't clutch your tunic or scan for leeches. You just rest tonight. You've traveled far, from stone temples to flooded pots, from sticky rice and salted fish to thunder that shook the trees. You've survived rain that wouldn't quit, sandals that couldn't stay on, and leeches with disturbingly selective taste. But for now, just breathe. Feel how still the air is after the storm. Let it settle over you like a warm, wet blanket that you no longer hate. Let the rhythm of the frog soften. Let the drip, drip, drip of your patched roof sound less like an annoyance and more like a lullaby. You've been barefoot in mud. You've been laughed at by monks. You've carried buckets, built latrines, talked to elephants, and made peace with fermented fish paste. These things change a person. But you don't have to carry them anymore. Not tonight. Tonight. Let your thoughts float like banana leaves down a quiet canal. Let your breath match the slow swing of that elephant charm in the breeze. Let your limbs go heavy, like freshly cut bamboo. You made it through the longest night in the Khmer Empire. You planted rice, weathered storms, faced spirits and centipedes. And now, there's nothing left to do. No offerings, no chants, no tasks. Just this moment. Let it stretch, let it soften, let it be enough. Because even in a world of endless rain, there are mornings that don't come with fear. And maybe, just maybe, when you wake again, the storm will have passed for good.